60%. Here we go. We're getting there. All right, Mark. I love it when you do the countdown, man.
In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yes, hello and welcome. That's right, you're trapped in this special edition of Nerd Cage Live. This ain't just a reaction show, but a debate show and a live discussion on everything that makes people like you and I tick. So thank you for joining us tonight. Please hit that like button and subscribe. I am your co-host, Jay St. G, coming to you live from Syracuse, New York. And always with me, my man, The Fiend, from Louisville, Mark Weathers. Bring our guest in, man.
Dude, I am super excited to be here, especially tonight, because the moment is here.
Yes.
We've been waiting weeks and weeks and weeks to bring this guy on. I'm very fortunate to call him my Sifu, my teacher. Taught me a lot about Kung Fu, a lot about life back in the day. You might know him as the original Johnny Cage, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Reptile, Noob Saibot, Smoke. He is the one and only Daniel Pesina. How are you doing, Sifu?
Hey, pretty good, Mark. Hey, Jason. How's it going tonight?
It's going great, man.
Right. I'm glad to hang out with you guys tonight.
Got people already here. Paul Tackett, what's going on? Follow One Gaming, our moderator. Ryan Baker, Kaiju Inc. Wow, welcome aboard, guys. Thanks for coming into the special edition. We're happy to have you guys. Are we doing all right?
We're going.
Okay,
Thursday
cool.
Night. It's Thursday night.
All right, cool. So, Master Pesina, thanks so much for taking your time out of your very, very busy schedule to join Nerd Cage Live tonight. This is really it's an honor, and this is a childhood dream come true because I've been a Mortal Kombat fan since I was 5 back in 92, 93.
Babality.
Funny story, like I'm not, anybody who's watched the show before or knows me personally knows that I'm not really like a video game person. So I had virtually no knowledge of like Mortal Kombat aside from the theme song from the movie, like because they were playing that in clubs when I was younger, right? And it wasn't until maybe a year or two after the first game came out that I actually walked into like a coin laundry and saw the game and played it and fell in love with it. And I didn't even know that, I'm kind of jumping topics here, that when I walked into your school for the first time, your relationship to that game, I just knew that the school was awesome, that everybody in the school was doing cool stuff. You were seemed like a great teacher, somebody that I really wanted to learn from. And it wasn't until I actually walked in there with my girlfriend at the time, and she was like, "Dude, do you know who that is?" And I was like, that's my Sifu, that's Danny Pesina. That's Johnny Cage. I was like, what, really? I didn't even realize for a long time.
Yeah, for a while I left the video game part of my life away just to focus on my training, martial art training. I still was a geek and liked to play video games, but that part of my life was just kind of I did that in the past. That's cool.
Right.
Lately it's over the last 6 years, there's been a resurgence of, I guess, all the people who used to play the games, like Jason when he was 5, grew up, and now, when they see me, they're 5 years old, they're 12 years old again, or, back in the day when they didn't have as many responsibilities and got to play with their friends a lot, whether it's at home or in the arcade. It brings that nostalgia back. So now I'm back.
Yeah, awesome. It's awesome. And I just want to take it back real quick. So, about 3 years ago, we met at the Retro Game Con in Syracuse, New York, and with John Parrish, aka Jax, and that was awesome. Connecting to you then, and seeing all your fans coming up to you, and and then you guys gave us the history of the little history lesson you guys gave us and whatnot. And by the way, I just want to show everybody that I got this shirt on right here. Shout out to my friend Jennifer, who got me the shirt a few years back. It's the original character select screen.
Nice.
Yes, nice swag. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all right.
So I remember you mentioned to me when Mortal Kombat first was conceived, you said that you were into Dungeons and Dragons, and that's how you met John Tobias, right?
Yeah, besides my brother Carlos, who also Mark knows, who teaches at the school, he used to draw, like sit at a kitchen table, whether it was my house, my parents' house, my house, same thing, or we had a friend, Andrew Kadelka. They would hang out there, and one of the people who would draw with him was John Tobias. And so, we went go to see a few kung fu movies together, go see movies together, go to the arcade a couple times together. But we would play at that same house at Andy's house. We played Dungeons and Dragons together, and that was, if you can imagine the bickering when you're playing D&D and that interaction. Take that, and then that's how is part of the way we created Mortal Kombat.
Oh, that is so awesome. See, this is great. We get to hear the intimate stories that the general public may not know. So, take us a little further. Like, from what I understand, you guys had just had like one videotape camera and a green screen and like 6 developers. Like, how did it all come together?
Actually, John Tobias's dad owned the camera. So we didn't have it was a high-end camera. It was for a non-professional, it was a really good camera, but it was not a professional camera by any means. It wasn't super expensive. It was expensive, but not like broadcast quality. It was as good as consumer can get back then. So we had that, and we actually didn't have a green screen. And John asked me to help him with the game. We pitched the game to Midway and to their representative Ed, and at the beginning, their first round, they said no to it, and that's when there's that whole confusion or that whole pitch, And I understand it's been 30 years, but they said no to it. That they're going to go with a mainstream game idea with Jean-Claude Van Damme. So a lot of people are like, oh, it's Mortal Kombat was based off of Jean-Claude. No, I think from what I recall. Those were 2 separate ideas, and I think that Mortal Kombat was probably the first idea because we did some things to pitch the game. And I'm always like, well, if they would have had the concept already, there would be no reason for me to make choreograph some fight scenes or to make a video showing like the game, and then they wouldn't need that. They'd already have those ideas, so that's why I think Mortal Kombat was the first idea, and that Jean-Claude Van Damme was the second idea. But yeah, I showed up. John was like, hey, the first thing we have to do is figure out how to make the game. And then I was like, okay, cool. And he's like, just show up and, wear some sweats, and we're going to just film martial art moves. So I just showed up at Midway Games, and we walked into, I thought it was a storage room, but they were using the storage room to film some of their other games. They had other live actors doing little bits of games. The whole game wasn't a live actor game at that time, but we kind of moved things around for a couple hours to get a space where there was even kind of lighting that we can kind of use and a flat wall we could film against, because John was like, oh, we're going to take the image and cut it out, and we need a wall a flat wall to be able to trim it out of. But it was, like I said, John and I spent about 5 8-hour days filming martial art moves and trying to create a pathway to Mortal Kombat before we had an idea like, hey, this is kind of how we're going to have the game. Let's invite in the programmer. And then we invited Ed to take a look at what we were doing. And most of the footage you see now is after those 5 or 6 days.
Okay.
So it is original footage, but it's not footage of the actual creation part. You know what I mean? It's the continuing creation part, but we actually taped over those to save money. We taped over those tapes, during the creation part, because we were just like, oh, we can't afford. John was like, I can't afford to buy more tapes. This game is going to be so low budget. So yeah.
And who knew it was going to blow up too?
Right.
Okay, so add on to what you were just saying here. I found one game and asked, did the character actors have to wear any mocap suits?
There was no such thing as mocap at that time. So it was all. So originally, the idea John had was to make it like Dragon's Lair. There was a game called Dragon's Lair that came out a CD. Remember, it came out a big CD-ROM. It was freaking awesome.
Right.
And I lost a lot of quarters playing that game, trying to freaking jump over the. They'd have it was kind of like jump from rock to rock as it disappeared or fall in the lava. Anyway, he wanted it more to, at the beginning, Tobias wanted it more to be like an actual Kung Fu movie, to have more frames. Mm-hmm. But because of the technology and the limit putting into the game, we started having to cut more and more frames for the movie to make the fighting like quick. Yeah. So at the beginning, we wanted to look more like a live character, a little bit more live than it does now. I think just because of the technology at the time, it still was us, but there was a little bit more animation to it.
Now, how'd you guys assemble your crew? I mean, Hosong Pak, Elizabeth Molaski, Richard DeVizio. Like, how did you guys all come together? I'm just curious.
Actually, when John asked me to help him pitch the game to Midway and to meet with, later on to meet with Ed, tell him about the game, he was like, I can't pay you a lot, so any ideas you have for the game, I'm going to put in the game, and you're going to be help me create this game, and you're going to have this credit, to do this thing. And so, one of the first things I did was change the Japanese ninja into the Lin Kuei, but that's a story we can tell later. Because originally John had him as Japanese ninja, and I was like, nah, I'm not going to do the game if you have him as Japanese ninja. Let's have it unique. Let's add the mystery of the Lin Kuei in it. And John was like, I never heard of that. So anyway, but also he was like, who can we get to do the game? Because I can't pay you a lot of money. So who can we get? And I was like, we can get, Tony Marquez, Kung Lao was going to be the ninjas, the original ninjas.
Yes.
We could get Ho Sung, Pak. We can get my brother to be Raiden and Rich to be Kano. So we can get all these guys to work, basically for cheap, just to be on the creative side of this game. And later on, at that time, he was like, I'm thinking of adding a female character. So even back then, I was like, oh, okay, I'll start looking now for a female character to put in the game. That idea was out there. Then we pitched the game to Midway. So it was just a very, very basic concept. So there was no mocap suit. Everything was just videotaped, and the lighting was when I was filming, even when parts of Cage were filming, there was only overhead lighting. There wasn't side lighting in some of the videos. We kept on adding. So, I have about 7 hours of footage from that. If you look at the very first part of the footage, and then the very, like, Ho Sung, Liu Kang was the last one we filmed completed.
Nice.
If you look at the difference in them, you can tell the quality, just, different things were added, like,
it improved as it went along.
Yeah, it improved as it went. As the problems came up, we started solving the problems as they came up.
Oh, nice. We got a good question here. So, Pots Kaiju Inc., cool dude, right, by the way. He says, were you guys allowed to use your own martial arts style for the characters, or was that decided before you guys were hired?
As I said, we were on the ground floor. Not only did we decide what martial arts the different characters were going to have, we got to, the original guys created their personalities.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like, it was, at the time too, we didn't know how big it was. John was just like, okay, this is like, okay, so for Johnny Cage, you're an actor who knows martial arts. Okay, go. And so I would film, the whole thing is at the beginning, I would come out and film something, and then we'd take a look at it. And then we'd film it again and take a look at it. And about the third day of the creating, we were like, okay, guess what? Do something 3 times and then change it in some way. And John would just be watching the film and be like, okay, do that again. Oh, trying to between him and the actor, and later on between him, myself, and the actor, we would try to make sure that, because again, this group, we all trained martial arts together. So a lot of us knew the same techniques and the same style. So it was my job to make sure that the characters didn't look all exactly the same. I had to come up with a little nuance, a little bit of tilting fist, or a little bit of the stance had to be a little bit different, or to give it a different personality. So, as far as, different things came up, like, as far as like the personality, like we had a problem with Raiden, his hat. His hat wouldn't stay on his head when he flipped back onto his back after, which was another whole, trying to get him to fall down was another whole problem, because originally John just wanted me to fall backwards. And then when I looked at it, I was like, that's really not dynamic. I think we should, so we experimenting with the way they fell for quite a while, until I came up with that whole, if we really throw their legs in the air, you get a really big dynamic movement. But anyway, with Raiden, like he kept on falling on his head. His head would come up on his head when he was trying to do the kip up, to get up. Yeah, there you go. So I was just like, John, he's a god. He doesn't need to do kip up. He could just teleport up. And John was like, oh man, that's a good idea. So, so as the problems came up, and that's a big part of his personality, to appear and reappear. He's a god. He does that. So that was all originally from us having that problem,
Nice.
and I was collaborating together and putting our head together to figure out the problems. So all those personalities are like, even the stuff you see in the movies and stuff like that, those are all created already by the actors, the original actors.
That is awesome. I'm gonna bring up some. So who came up with like the shadow kick, the nut punch, and of course the spear and the get over here? Like, so who came up with all that?
Well, the nut punch, what happens is because Van Damme nixed Ed's game, Ed really wanted to throw in some Jean-Claude Van Damme parodies, jokes and stuff like that. Right. But originally, I didn't want to do it. I was like, no, I'm not going to do that, because again, I didn't work for Midway. They weren't really paying me a lot, and I was like, oh, I'm part of the creation. I was like, no. And then John was like, you know what? If you do this, we'll buy you pizzas. Every time you come into work at night, we'll buy you pizza. And so something like that. And so they bribed me with food, and I was like, okay, I'll do that. But
I would have gave in too. Just saying.
Yeah, but like, different things were mostly it was a collaboration of the actor and then John were the main things. And sometimes like, for the, it was like Scorpion Spear. Originally Ed wanted me to take a lasso and like throw it around the guy and tie him up. And then I walk up to him and get to punch him for like free because he's tied up. And then I was like, man, I'm not going to do any Wonder Woman moves. And because we were always joking around too, we were making fun of each other all the time, and just jokes. And I just joked around. I'm not going to do Wonder Woman, but there's a martial art weapon in Chinese martial arts that's called a rope dart. Originally it was used to pull horsemen off their horses, and it's a big dart, 1 or 2 pounds on a big long piece of leather rope, and you wrap it around your body. And so I had one. I showed John, and John's like, "Oh, that's really cool." So we're going to do that. So I'll throw it, and then I'll pull him over. And as I threw the dart and I started pulling him over, Rich DeVizio, was watching us film, helping us film. He yelled out in the Kano voice, "Get over here!" like that. So the creator of Get Over Here is actually Rich DeVizio.
Wow. Okay.
I know Ed does the voice.
I know. Yeah.
The person who coined the phrase, or actually created the phrase "Get Over Here," is Kano. Rich.
Wow.
So,
okay.
And like different things like I came up with my favorite fatality, Sonya's fatality, and I created that. John was like always just like, think of something cool. He's like, Dan, think of something cool. And I was like, oh, it'd be cool if she blew a kiss at you and you blew up in flames. And, and the kiss looked like a butterfly. And John was like, okay, let's do that. Tobias was really always like, what is the best idea? What we're going to do with, what is the best idea for the game to make this game like really, really cool? Because again, at the time we were doing it, we only thought there was going to be 200 arcade cabinets.
Bad prediction.
Yeah, so, and two, it was like, Kano ripping out your heart. Rich DeVizio created that. He actually wanted to take your heart and eat it and then hold it up. Take a bite like an apple and hold it up. But John was like, that's a little bit too much. Being a cannibal, just hold it up. And I was just like, oh man, it'd be cool if it's like still beating.
Still beating.
Yeah, and like Indiana Jones, because we were goofing around with that. And then, so it came out still beating. So, Hosung wanted to have his, he was the last. Hosung, Liu Kang, he wanted to do his character last because he wanted to see what everyone was doing and one up them. To make it look a better character. He was just like, no, I'm going to go last. And then I'm going to see what you guys are doing. And then I'm going to, try to one up you guys. So, but, and then, it was always that goofing around, that competition. So a lot of things, came up just because, the actor was like, oh, it's good. Let's do this.
Okay, so I got another question from Podchaser Inc. He says, was there ever a moment where anybody in the crew realized that this game could be a huge hit, or did you guys not see it coming?
Actually, Rich and I, Kano, always, from the first day, we were like, John's going to let us put whatever we want in the game. This game is going to be so cool. So we always thought it would be a cool game. But again, the 200 cabinets, again, when John asked for my help, and later on when I met with Ed, I was like, can we make 201 cabinets? Because I can get a cabinet. And they were like, no, we promise you there's only going to be 200 made. And one of those cabinets is over $5,000. So there's no way we can afford to give you one of these cabinets. Oh. We're going to make 200 arcade games, and both of them promised me verbally that. And and Rich and Carlos are like, yeah, well, that's what you get. They're really expensive, but at least you're going to get to help create the game and stuff like that. So, yeah.
And I was also wanting to ask you is, we were just talking about fatalities a little bit ago. What was your reaction, and what was your family's reaction, your wife's reaction, seeing you in the game get killed, getting your head ripped off, or this and that? Like, what was your family's reaction to seeing you yourself getting killed, in the game? How'd you feel about it?
Yeah, well, at the time I saw the first, originally Johnny Cage was going to have 3 fatalities. We tried to do 3 fatalities, but just because of technology constrictions, we couldn't get all 3 in. They were too complicated. The first ever fatality, I wanted to jump up in the air and punch a hole in the guy's skull, and then he turns towards the camera and he had a hole in his skull. So we kind of filmed for that, but then John looked at it and he's like, you know what, that's going to be really complicated to do. Think of something else. And then I was like, well, what if the energy gets so low, he drops to his knees, and then I just beat him, pummel him, and then I uppercut his head, and his head comes flying off.
Yes.
And then John is like, okay, let's film that. So we filmed that, and he took a look at that, and he's like, you know what, that's going to be a little complicated too right now. What's a really simple one you want to do? And I was like, I just want to take the guy's head off. And so he goes, okay, so that's plain and simple. We're going to do that. But the first time I saw it was in a test mode. So, okay. And I think that's where when we first pitched the game to Midway, we had the blood idea. We wanted blood. John wanted blood in the game, and that's part of the pitch. When we were pitching the game to Ed, it was like, oh, we want blood in the game, and we want X-rays, we want tag teams. We had all these ideas for this game. And then, but for the test of the game, the blood was over the top, really over the top, like a samurai movie. So, Ed, when he was doing it, he was just like went crazy with the blood, and I think that was one of his best creations, was never tuning the blood down, always having it like the blood just coming way out of the way out. So that, so again, everything was like always collaborating stuff. So when I first saw it, I was really shocked. When my mom first saw it, she kind of hit me in the back of the head. Like, what are you doing this stuff for? What are you doing this stuff for? I took her at the arcade to see it because again, we didn't have any intention for it to go to the home system. It was always designed for kids who go to the arcade. And, usually kids who go to the arcade have their own quarters. They could be left by themselves. You might be 12 or 13, but you're still at that age. You're not 6 or 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we really designed it. So the first time I saw it, I was just like shocked, and the first time my mom saw it, I got hit.
When was the moment? Because I know, like, we just kind of like someone asked the question. Did you know at some point that you had a hit on your hands? When was the moment that you realized that the game was a hit and that like you actually were going to be known from that point on as Johnny Cage or Scorpion or whatever?
Well, you know what? John called me up the day after Super Bowl Sunday because they took the game to test up on Super Bowl Sunday. And so, that day, everybody's going to be watching Super Bowl. Even us geeks watch Super Bowl. Yeah. The commercials. We're all about the commercials. But so he took it out there to test, and he set it up, and he got it going. And a couple hours later, I recall John telling me that, he's like, the guy called me up a couple hours later, and he said, hey, there's something wrong with your game. So John's like, crap. So John had to use his dad's car to go over to I think it's dad's car. But anyway, John had to go check out why the game wasn't working. So John looks at the game, and he sees like everything's like runs a test, and he's just like, well, wait a minute. And he opens up the coin box, and the coin box is filled. So once the coin box is filled, the game stops because it's all about the quarters.
Right.
So John is like, okay, wow. And he looks around, and there's hardly anybody in the arcade, really. And he's like, okay. And then a couple hours later, he gets a call again. Hey, your game is not working again. So he's just like, oh, and he goes out there, he opens up the coin box again, and it's filled. Wow. And then he's like, and that's the point where I realized that this game was going to be a hit. Yeah, he's like, dude, he goes, nobody's supposed to be playing this game, and the coin box got filled more than a couple times, I think, as I recall. And I had to come out because people were just playing it like crazy. He goes, but every time I went out there, nobody would be around it. So at that point, he was like, he knew it. He told me, dude, it's going to be so big. And I was like, I told you guys, it's going to be awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, so quick question, man. I've always wondered. It's been bothering me for years now. I never knew this, but so in the original game, when every time Johnny Cage does his victory pose, you hear like a yeah, and then he puts his glasses on. Who did that? Who's the one that screamed yeah? Was that you or is that?
We did I don't know what made it into the game, but that is one of the things that I added to the game because again, the tape was rolling and John's instructions, do something cool. So the first time I just walked out and I kind of looked around and I waved my hand and then I got in my fighting stance. And John was like, okay, do it again. So I did it a couple times and then I was just like, I took my glasses and Ed was like standing in the background. I took my glasses for the first time. I threw them at Ed. Like that, and then I got to that, and then John was like, "Oh, that's cool. Do that again." So this time I did that a couple times, and then I was like, finally, I was just like walked out, and I kind of waved, doing this stuff, flexing, got into the fighting stance. So that was all just shooting this video over and over, doing these movements, dozens of times over and over, looking for the correct move or that right look. And again, John just looking at it and saying, I didn't like that. We're going to erase that. And so he would erase that and tape over that because we wanted just to have Johnny Cage. And again, he didn't have a name. They were just called Dan. Dan is going to be just on one tape, And when Rich came in, there was no Kano yet. Rich was going to be on one tape. Raiden, I think, was the only one who really had a name at the beginning.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Let's see. I'm looking at the chat right now. B Nap has just asked, were you involved in the sequel games as well? And we know the answer to that, but I'll let you take that one.
Yeah. And the second game, yeah. And by the end of the second game, again, they told me, the first time I mentioned, and this is the falling out part, people, and two, people should remember that even if your friend is in charge of the project, that doesn't mean he's usually owner of the company. So he can't really help you he can help you, but not really that. So John told me we're going to make 200 cabinets, and when they pre-ordered 10,000, I was like, John, you told me they're going to make 200. You wouldn't even give me one. And John was like, don't worry. If I get one, I'm going to give you one, and they're going to give you a bonus. You know, we did really good. You did really good in helping this stuff. And two, as a part of the, you know, when it was going to come out, John called me up a couple days or a day or two before they were going to release the game. He was like, dude, for helping me, I want to put you on the side of the cabinet. Is that all right with you? And I was like, sure, yeah, that's awesome. So he had me come in and shoot some, you know, but that was another problem. And he'll shoot a jump side kick, like different types of jump kicks to try to get that image. But then again, at the end, then it went to home, and then I got the same thing. Don't worry, they're going to give you a bonus. So a couple of years later, I was like, John, you know, they're not going to give you the bonus. And so John kind of approached the owners of Midway, and then I got a call from the representative of Midway say, hey, do you have any of these promises in writing? And then right away I knew, like, oh, these guys are not going to give me, but they're going to just keep all the money, even though I had John change, you know, the Japanese engine to Chinese Lin-Kuei. You know, that look that
right.
Sub-Zero and Scorpion have right now is the look of that Chinese art in that game. It would have not looked like that if it wasn't for me.
Yeah, I know. You're pivotal. Yeah. You created the damn game.
There'd be no rope dart in it. You know what I mean? There'd be no kiss of death. There would be no teleport. You know, there would be not all this stuff. There would be no, you know, John and I made this pathway to the game. You know, there wouldn't be any of that if it wasn't.
Yeah.
You know, the game would be totally different.
Game wouldn't.
Yeah.
Be
Your true fans are well aware of this. Just, you know, I've known this for a while, so.
Yeah. So in the end, I just was like, okay, I'm not gonna, you know, I'm not gonna work with these guys, and that's the whole, you know, I wanted to take them to. Took him to court for the right of my image, you know, and the judge in the court was actually like, no, you know, a video game in the arcade is the same as a home game. Now it's laws totally different. But for her, I think it was a lady, she was just like, this is just a fad. Home games are never going to be big.
Wow.
She stated that.
The judge misjudged big time.
And you know, there's no difference between home game and an arcade game. Now the laws are really, really different than back then. You know, there's a whole set of laws that protects you and protects your rights back then. You know, us being the pioneers, we had a sacrifice to make. So, you know, if you guys are ever creating anything, seek out a good lawyer. Don't leave it just a chance or anything like that. So, because, you know, John's still my friend to this day. But you know, sometimes, you know, a lot of people don't know the intensity, like how of the creation of the game, how the collaboration was. You know, they think that, that the company gave us, try out for the game. No, we didn't try out for the game. They, you know, John asked me as a favor to, you know, he couldn't pay me a lot to help him create this game. You know, so the whole, you know, you see all this stuff, like, you know, how big it's gotten, and it's cool, but it's kind of bittersweet too, because a lot of people.
Yeah, no, I totally understand.
You know, guess what? You know, without Pesina, there would be no Scorpion.
Yeah, but since you've been doing the martial arts circuit, the convention circuit, all the fans know that you're the true hero of Mortal Kombat.
Oh, thanks.
Absolutely.
Again, it was a collaboration. You know, everybody deserves. You know, everybody deserves credit. You know, everybody doing it. It was truly a collaboration. It wasn't just like, there's just two co-creators. No, it's not really like that. You know, there was a big group.
Okay, I got another question. I know, since we kind of got up to the topic of, you know, when you left Midway. Now, when were you aware? Were you still with Midway when the talks of the Mortal Kombat movie, which, by the way, 25 years ago, a couple days ago, like, how long was the Mortal Kombat movie in development before it actually when did you become? Were you aware of it? Were you involved in any part of the movie at all when it was in like pre-production and stuff?
Yeah, that was one of the carrots they tried to wave in front of us, as I recall. They were like, maybe you'll get a chance to be in the movie if you don't take a bonus, or, you know what I mean? And never from the owners. It was always from somebody else who didn't really have who didn't have clout or who couldn't really fulfill that promise.
Mm-hmm.
We were told that stuff. So they had their way. Midway has their way of scheming out of things. At least in my opinion, and that feeling with that. If you listen to a lot of documentaries or hear stuff about how things were at Midway, you can see how cutthroat that whole company embraced that cutthroat type of. It wasn't a family. It was more like you had your cliques, but everybody was really out for a lot of times, for themselves. But we did some. I met with Kazanoff, and I always even now when I look at the movie and see like movie stills or stuff like that, I gave them a bunch of pictures that I took and set up on Mortal Kombat 1 and 2, and I see those in the movies.
Right.
One of the popular ones is when Sub-Zero is facing off against Liu Kang.
Yes.
I have actually a picture of us doing the game that has the exact poses in it. Me and Ho-Sung doing those exact poses.
Yeah.
And so they just took that idea and they just were like, okay, somebody else came up with that idea, but we're just going to put it in the movie. So it's kind of like, I was just like, man, these guys are just really, you know what I mean? They don't realize that, guess what? And two, I guess they own it, the rights. I have really no idea as far as like IP, but it's like you never get, the actors always get separated from, there's the actors, there's the video game actors and the movie actors. And in reality, the video game actors are the ones who had a big collaboration creating the personalities and the techniques and the persona of that. And the actors in the movie, which are awesome, those guys are awesome.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But those guys are already got, Scorpion has a rope dart.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you know what I mean? Sub-Zero has a freeze ball, or Sub-Zero has the slide or stuff like that. And that was all, the actors had a big part in collaborating with those ideas.
So what do you think of like Lyndon Ashby and Chris Casamassa and all those guys, the characters that you portrayed first? Like,
yeah, those guys are freaking awesome, man.
Yeah, they are.
They're awesome. And hopefully they got paid more than me because creating those personas and creating all those techniques. I hope they got in the end they get there's no animosity, and I'm happy they're doing that stuff. And two, they're acting something that I created. So it's kind of like when they do that, I am really proud.
Oh.
And I hope they keep on doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because those characters, like, they get to portray those, but I actually helped create those characters. You know what I mean? Really, Too, when talking to, just in general, when I talk to Tony, Kung Lao, he's always like, yeah, those guys are, and two, he's like that. He's like, so many people portray me. He goes, but I'm the one,
Yes.
And it's awesome because in the end, I am the one who, there wasn't a script or anything like that. I'm the one who created, Tony loved Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
And so when we gave him a hat, he did everything. He would constantly walk like Clint Eastwood and fistful of dollars. You know what I mean?
Right.
So and then too, doing that, just that had that Clint Eastwood attitude, putting it in that Shaolin attitude in the game. He just did. That's So when you see that, that's it. That's what he created.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to segue into this, since we were kind of talking about movies. Now, Master Pesina, you've been involved in a few movies, fight choreography, action choreography. Can you just give us some background on some of the movies you worked on and did?
Yeah, I did stunts for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle 2 before MK. So that was.
I love that movie.
That was a really good experience. The choreographer was Pat Johnson, main choreographer. 2, he was like, okay, this is what I need, and he would kind of like, because he's been in the industry so more, he would like let this is my idea to do this. Now, you guys, what can you guys do with this? So then when you get a group of martial artists doing that, then he takes a look, he makes his adjustments. Things happen really, really quick. So we got to do some, fight to chime in on fight scenes during that. I did a fan film, Fate's Beginning, which was, I was supposed to go out and do like the choreography. They were like, not hired me. They asked me to come help. I was like, sure, that sounds really cool. Let me do that. So I showed up, worked with actors for like a couple hours, And then the morning of the shoot, no, the night of the shoot, we're going to start, I came in Friday, we're going to start shooting Saturday. They were like, the guy who's going to do Shang Tsung is not going to, he doesn't want to do it anymore. So we can't do this film. And the director and the creator of the movie with Chris was just like, can you do that? And like me, like an idiot, I was like, sure, I could do that. Because I was like, originally, in Mortal Kombat 1, there were 2 Shang Tsungs. Everybody's like, oh, Ho Sung is Shang Tsung. But the first original Shang Tsung is Eric Kincaid. So we shot, he was going to be a still Shang Tsung. I remember one time we put him on a piece of carpet and he was in a fighting stance. And then I pulled on the carpet to drag him along to make him look like he was floating. I set him up in a position, in a fighting position.
Nice.
So we were trying to experiment with how to create like the Shang Tsung.
I've always wondered that. Okay, it all makes sense now.
So, yeah, so later on we wanted him to do more, and Ho Sung was like, being the last one, Ho Sung's shoot was only like 1 or 2 days, very short time. He was like, oh, can I do more for the game? So John was like, yeah, you could do, we're gonna need pickup shots for Shang Tsung. Why don't we, just throw on the costume, we'll do some moves right now for Shang Tsung. So I was just gonna borrow those 2 original ideas of Shang Tsung and put it in this movie. But little did I realize that he had a lot of lines. So I wound up trying to rehearse all these lines while we were shooting this movie. So that was one, and I did a couple independent movies where Ho Sung got a film crew together, a couple. I think one was Common Enemy, and there was another movie, I can't remember the name of it. Book of Swords. Okay. So he was just like, okay, put the choreography together. Let me take a look at it. You work with the stunt guys. We got a bunch of just people we knew who were in martial arts to do the stunts, like 30 guys. It was like craziness. And we put together this, and then Ho Sung would come out. Okay, let me see what we got. Okay, cool, we'll do this. I'm going to do this here. Okay, let's go, let's shoot it. So, I got to put my 2 cents into those projects too.
Nice.
Awesome.
Nicholas Venezuela, he asks, first of all, he says, Saludos de Chile, Danny. And then he says, who was the funniest actor you worked with during your MK experience?
The funniest, well, it was always really, really fun to do. So I wouldn't say that it was just a fun project. Like I recall, and hey, Nicholas, I recall one time, because Kano, Rich, and there's no offense, he was young then or anything like that, so don't think it. But we were goofing around with this. But Rich wore these shoes 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. He would walk around with these kung fu shoes from China, because they were from China, and he got them, and he would wear them every day. So they would really smell because he wouldn't wear socks with them. So he's under this light shooting Kano, and he's like, oh, I need my feet hurt. Because we're doing it on concrete. Most of it was done on concrete. Ooh. And and as Mark knows, the kung fu shoes are really thin.
Yes.
You're walking around and, they're really thin. They hurt your feet. So he was like, I need to rest my shoes. So when he took off his shoes, I swear, from 8 feet away, you were just like, holy cow, the shoes would smell. So we would play dodgeball with the shoes. So when you got hit with the shoes, I remember I would smell it and we'd be like, oh my God. And so Rich would be chasing Tobias around with these smelly shoes, like swinging at him. So it was always just crazy stuff like that happening on filming Mortal Kombat. So who was the funniest? It was always funny because we were always just goofing around, and that's how all this goofy stuff, would come out, like Scorpion. John was like, oh, I want you to blow fire for Scorpion and light a guy on fire. His fatality is going to be you light the guy on fire. And me being a smart butt, can I say ass? Smart ass?
Yeah, you can say it. Yeah.
Me being a smart ass, I was just like, no, John, I'm not going to do that. And John's like, why? Giving me why? And then I was just like, because if I shoot flames out, my mask will go on fire, and then my whole head will be on fire. Oh, boy. And then John is like, don't be an idiot. Pull down the mask and blow fire. And then Rich was just like, oh my God, take off the mask and he's a skeleton.
Yes.
and then I'm like, yeah, and his head's still on fire. So that was the type of goofing around. So it started out as a joke, saying no, I'm not going to do that move. Because again, John would be like, dude, I was looking to get pizza or something out of it. Because John is like, do the splits. No, do a Van Damme move. No, I'm not going to do a Van Damme move. Well, I'll buy you pizza or I'll buy you lunch.
There we go. Bribe him with the food.
So too, with me doing that, it was just that whole goofing around. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. That's a dumb idea because my head will be on fire. Because I'm wearing a mask. And so it was just being a smart ass. And then so we would be always bickering and doing that stuff during the creation. So everybody had a lot of fun doing it.
Okay.
Awesome.
So Mark's been too quiet here, so I want to bring Mark in for this next one here. So do you have any, because Mark was one of your students back in the day. I would love to know, what do you remember teaching Mark? Tell me what Mark was good at. Tell me what Mark needs to work on, what he's bad at. I'd love to know. I'm fascinated.
Sorry, I was good at nothing. So
no, actually he was a good student. As I recall, he was a good student. Always always worked hard. We all used to watch a lot of kung fu movies back in that day. So we would always be like, oh, we saw this in a kung fu movie, and okay, this is that style. And then we would be working on that stuff during class. We was like, butterfly kicks or just different jumping or different techniques. We would always be like, oh, I saw this in a movie. Which movie? Oh yeah, I know that. That's Shaolin or that's Chop Fist or stuff like that. So we would always be goofing around and doing that. And I think that's the whole thing. Is the approach was always fun. It's hard work because kung fu means hard work. Wushu means martial art. So it was always, you always put kung fu in your wushu, but you made it a lot of fun during that time.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun, and I think that's why I liked your school so much, because when I first moved to Chicago, the very first thing I wanted to do was find a good kung fu school, and every school around on the north side was the Sifu was super serious, because they wanted to know who you're if you had trained before, who was your Sifu back in Florida, who's your Sikun. Who's his Sifu, and they would ask you all these questions. When I came and talked to you for the first time, your first question was just well, what's your interest? You know what I mean? You didn't ask me any of those questions. It was just well, we can teach you this. We can teach you this. What do you want? What do you want to know? And then I'd look over and I'd see Peck or somebody in the Peck's another one of the students, for anybody who doesn't know. Peck would be in the back of the school, doing some cool aerial thing, or some other student would be working with a weapon or something. I'd be I want to learn that. I want to learn that. And then and you're yep, we can teach you that. So
yeah, I think that was basically, our the approach was, when you're exploring martial arts, you have an idea of it, but first you have to put yourself in it to really figure out, to really get a good idea. Because, a lot of people are oh, I want to learn drunken boxing. It's really popular. I want to learn drunken boxing. You know how freaking difficult that is? You need a lot of flexibility. You have to be able to land soft, because when you're drunk, you fall down. So you really know how to fall correctly and fall while you're delivering techniques and to make it look drunk. So it is really difficult. So though it's a cool style, you think to learn, to actually learn it is really, really difficult. And I don't know if once you start doing it, if you really realize oh man, maybe I don't have the splits. So you don't belong doing drunken boxing if you don't have the splits, because you notice that a drunkard falls and doesn't really get injured. And part of the reason, he'll wake up really sore, because at the time when he's drunk, he has more flexibility than he does have when he's sober. So a lot of things are like that where you have to experiment. So, with Mark, I was okay, try something first and then really figure out if you want to do it.
Yeah. I remember a lot of that, and I remember one of the things that stands out to me is that, on day one, you started me on a weapon, you gave me a bow staff, and you were okay, we're gonna start out with these movements, with this basic form, and I had done martial arts before, Like, but in the other schools and the other disciplines that I trained in, the weapons always came later. And you would do like your basic punches and your kicks and your stances. And if you stayed long enough, then it was like, okay, now you can learn this weapon. Well, but with your school, I remember day one, it was like bow staff. Okay, we're going to do these movements. You're going to learn this form. And it took me forever to realize that like probably the reason why was because the like your body positioning and the stances and everything, they're the same with a weapon as without, like with a bow staff as without. And so like the bow staff actually helped me to like get those stances down and to like follow through with punches and like, you know, get some of that, get the body turns down and all of that. So was that your intention? Because that's what I kind of surmised over the years.
Yeah, I realized that, you know, you learn hand, but you learn too. One thing, Chinese martial arts, so many darn weapons. You know, I know like 38 different weapons, something crazy like that. So, you know, two, get into them right away so you can learn as many as you can, because really there is a lot. And two, if you do that, it makes the training fun. Like people want to do it. Oh, I got a weapon. Oh, I should, you know, oh, I got to like do, oh, I'm going to do this more or this more. My stances, I'm going to really work on my stances because I got to get them better for my weapon. As opposed to if I just put you in the stance like in the old school, okay, just hold it. You know, that and back in the day too, the martial arts are different. Back in the day, the instructor used to pay the student because in the end, the instructor had an army. And that's what you're a part of the army. You get an allowance. I give you food because in the end, you're going to be fighting alongside me. And now it's different. Now people pay the instructor, so it's different. So you got to be a little more lenient on some things. But yeah, the weapons makes it much more fun to learn. You know.
Yeah. I still practice my broadsword technique too. By the way.
That's awesome. That's good. Happy to hear that.
Awesome.
Okay, I'm going to field a couple questions here. I'm just going to look back. Let's see here. Paul Tackett asks, who has the original tapes and do they still exist? I think he's referring to the move tapes.
Yeah, I have the original tapes, but Warner Brothers will not let me share them.
Gotcha.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, share them. I think if that's the whole thing. Is a lot of times if you actually see the tapes, you're going to realize how much the actors had to do with the creation. It brings up a lot of like, oh, wait, what? That guy came up with that? I thought, you know, I thought some guy in an office came up with that. No, you know, yeah, I think that's part of the thing is to get that whole holy cow, you know. Just that. So I have them. Hopefully one day they'll do it.
There we go. Final One Gaming asks, are you excited for the Mortal Kombat movie reboot coming out in January?
I am actually, yes. The original movie I didn't think was dark enough. You know, I thought fatalities would be appropriate in the first game and first movie and blood and stuff like that. And I know they wanted to pitch to a wider audience, so they made it like PG-13 or something crazy like that. But I always thought it should be, you know, Tobias's vision was to be very, very dark. And so, you know, I think it's time that it came out that way. And understand that it has an R rating. So I have hope. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed.
Yes. No, that works out good, though, because people like me who was 10 when the first movie came out, you know, I wouldn't have been able to get into the movie theater if it was rated R. Now that I'm in my 30s, I can see this new movie rated R and see it in this dark, glorious fatalities and everything.
Yeah, so I have high hopes for the movie.
Okay, and real quick here, I'm looking at another question here. Alex Manses is just asking, why haven't we talked about Mortal Kombat 2? Well, we did a little bit, but he wanted to talk about how the second game came about and some of the details of, details of the second game.
Yeah, well, number 2 came out, and they actually took that storage space and they made it into a production studio. So we had like professional lighting, professional digital camera, you know, as opposed to John's dad's high 8 camera, which is awesome. But again, it's not, you know, when you spend, you know, even if it's $1,500 for a camera, when you get a $30,000 camera, there's a little bit of quality difference in that.
Right.
And yeah, there's a slight difference in what they're doing. So, but the only thing is with what you lose with digital, when we went digital, is the behind the scene footage is probably doesn't really exist. I don't think. Like because originally John taped on his high 8, and then he gave it to you. He's like, okay, he was like, you can use this because you helped create it and you choreographed this, help with the choreography. Back then and again too, at that time he could admit it. Now they can't, because it's like, oh, we didn't hire you to do that, and I never got paid for that. So that's a big no-no. Or using our ideas is a big no-no too, because we didn't really work for Midway as far as that. We were only actors.
Yeah.
Right? Actors aren't supposed to be creating other people's fatalities and all that stuff.
Here's a question. Good way to segue into this next question here. Brandon Sherlock says, "Cool to see you, dude. Have you considered getting involved with NetherRealm in a new Mortal Kombat with some of the original characters and actors? NetherRealm could bring back the old Mortal Kombat excitement." So I'll let you take that one, obviously.
Yeah. I would say not in that way. It's because again, even though it's different, even though it's Warner Brothers, it's not Midway. That whole it's not people who know me as that. I know that I don't really get along with Ed. At this time, Ed is probably the only one I don't talk to. Again, maybe I'm too. It could be that I'm a little hard on him, but he was. Yeah. Ed is was
understandably so.
Yeah, Ed is the manager of the game. So he did a lot for the game and stuff like that. But too, when I look back, I'm like, dude, originally you said no to the game, and now all of a sudden you want to forget all that stuff that you had you said no to Mortal Kombat, which came out, and decided that the Van Damme game was going to be a better hit. You didn't have for me, you didn't have that vision. And two, the first 5-6 days that we were creating the pathway to the game was only John and I. There was nobody else there. So, I kind of hold that. And two, him being the manager, I really am like, you should have really told those guys the story of how it was really created. You should have given us the bonus.
Absolutely.
You should have given us a bonus. So, I'm a little hard on him for that, and I don't get along with him for that because he knows that stuff. And I say this all in public, and it's kind of sometimes kind of hard.
Yeah.
There was in Chicago. In Chicago, we had a sportscaster who said, I forget his name, something Smith, who said that Michael Jordan you can never build a franchise around Michael Jordan. And in the end, you build a franchise around Michael Jordan. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to be that guy. So, originally saying no to the game is kind of, you're that guy. So he doesn't really want to hear that. And when I say that, sorry again, he doesn't like me for that. But again, he doesn't like me for that, and I don't like him for not. For how I feel, he should have told those guys, hey, these guys really had a hand. You got to treat them right.
Yeah, we agree with you. Here's a good one from B-Nap. Question for all three of us. Might be a little tough, but do you have a favorite fatality from any of the games? So go ahead.
And again, as I stated in the first part, my favorite fatality is Sonya's fatality, which I created. John was like, think of what can we do for Sonya? And I was like, oh, let's do kiss of death. I was like, she gives you the kiss and it looks like a butterfly and you explode. And then we were like, so I really out of all the fatalities, that's one of my favorite. And there's a couple of I made a couple of joke fatalities like Katana Molina. One was a joke and one was a tribute to Big Trouble in Little China. So. Her fatalities, and again, I think, just that whole collaborating, all the fatalities are really cool. All the moves are really cool.
All right, Mark, what's yours?
To be honest, I don't really have a favorite fatality. I like them all,
Yeah.
Okay.
That.
I know what mine is.
Dylan Death.
So, Master Pesina, I'm going to share the story with you. So, my favorite fatality is the first fatality I ever seen you do, actually. And what got me hooked from the get-go when I was like 5 or 6 years old, when I saw the arcade panel, Sub-Zero spine rip. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget to this day where I was when I watched that happen. and then my mother was standing behind me, and she was mortified. And to add to that, my mother was being a cock block. She did not want me playing Mortal Kombat, and I'm like, "Oh, Mom, it's so awesome! You gotta let me play this." You know, it was at a department store next to the gumball machines, and I was like ready to cry because my mom didn't want me playing it because she was mortified of the violence. And then, of course, Oprah came on and started talking about, "Oh, this is a violent game. Don't let your kids play it." All that happened, and then finally, my dad's just like, "Oh, just let them play the game." I'm like, "Thanks, Dad. You're the best."
Yes.
And then I never turned back since.
Yeah, but to give you, actually, Ed came up with that. He wanted to do that, pay a tribute to Predator. I think it was Predator at the time, where you rip the spine off. So they were like, "Oh, and then I thought, like, to really, you see today, like, the way he's like, "Okay, you take them by that and just go like this," and I was like, "Well, when we do it, we got to rip the spine straight up, because if you pull it like this, you're only going to get the head. The spine won't actually come out." So we were trying to take a scientific approach to it, And so, and then I was like, "So we got to really lift it up." And then Ed is like, "Well, kind of get stretched up and get on your toes, so you can pull it way up." And so we were kind of all collaborated on this, on it. But Ed is the original one who came up with that idea of ripping somebody's spine off.
Excellent.
Awesome.
So I want to change topics just a little bit here, because I know some of the names in the chat here. There's a lot of people who are members of the Kaiju YouTube community, and I'm a big fan of the Kaiju community, YouTube community as well. And as you can see, my Godzilla blanket in the background. I saw a tweet that you posted a few months back showing off your Godzilla and Anguirus statue. So please, can you just give us Kaiju fans, like, some of your favorite Kaiju movies and give us an insight on some of your collection?
Yeah, as far as Godzilla, I am myself and my brother Carlos. My dad would take us to the drive-in to do the 3-movie in the car to do the 3-movie Godzilla, freaking epic thing in a drive-in. So we'd be at the drive-in for like 6 hours watching Godzilla. So my dad was really would really be like, I don't know if he was a Godzilla fan, but he knew that we were big Godzilla fans. So we would get to there and just watch them all the time. So even for me, and we were talking about this just a little while before, I don't think there is a bad Godzilla movie.
Yes, my man.
There's some better than others.
Yes, agreed.
There was the one with Matthew Broderick who came out. I actually enjoyed it, because I am a Godzilla fan, because it's still Godzilla. Yeah. And I will support Godzilla no matter what, because that's what it is. Sure, they changed it and they had a different artistic view of it, but it's still Godzilla. He's still radioactive. He's still breathing fire. He's still knocking down buildings. You know what I mean? Yeah. In the end, and somebody wanted to portray it in a certain way. And for me, guess what? I don't care. I went to see it in the movie theater a couple times. I paid my money. And whenever it's on, I watch it.
Yeah.
No matter what, got to put everything down. Or if the Godzilla movie's on, I got to have it running in the background so I can watch it. So
awesome.
I think Carlos's Godzilla collection is probably bigger than mine.
Oh, that's so awesome. It's just because my two nerd passions is Mortal Kombat and Godzilla, and the fact that we share that is just so awesome.
Naturally, and two, it's like I wish I could collect more, had time to collect more and build.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Build more, but it's hard. It's funny when you get when you're an adult, you get a little extra money to buy the little bit more expensive ones, but then you don't have any time to put them together because you got to work, or things like that. So hopefully, who's a big Godzilla fan is also Doc Mack from Galloping Ghost. His whole office.
Oh, dude, I love the Galloping Ghost arcade. I finally went there last year. When I went to G-Fest for the first time last year in Chicago. Oh, I had a blast, and that's why I made so much friends. A lot of these people in the chat I met at G-Fest as well. But on my last night in Chicago, and you were out of town. I wanted to find you, but you were out of town. I think you were in South America at the time. But I went to the Galloping Ghost arcade, and I spent 3 hours there, and it wasn't enough.
Yeah. But he's a big fan, and he actually this year he was like, "Oh, you got to go with me to G Fest. I think that'd be really cool just to go." And I was like, "Heck yeah, man!"
I'm going next year.
I'll meet you there next year.
Yes, awesome. And another convention I missed
brother.
you. So 2 years ago, it was the last Combat Con. It was canceled at the last minute. I was gonna go. I was ready to go, and you guys, I don't know what happened, but you guys canceled Combat Con, and was it 2018 or 2019? I don't know. It was 2018.
I think it was 2 years ago. I think it was. I think at the time I double booked. So So for me, I actually had to go to the place that was actually paying me.
I wanted to go.
I signed a contract for, as opposed to going to my friend's event.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to go.
So I was out. Yeah. So I was out of that, but hopefully, we'll work something out and get. I don't know if there can. It's just such a big project, the Combat Con. Getting every. We had the actors there from all three.
Yep.
Or all three games. Plus, we had some of the guys from behind the scenes, programmers and things like that. And it's difficult coordinating them to get together. Just everybody's schedule's so different now, man. So yeah, but hopefully that'll happen again. But hopefully I'll go to G Fest, invite my brother, go down there, meet everybody. Yes. Or just hang out because it's so awesome.
Yeah, I'm going to be hosting the panel at G Fest next year too. I was supposed to do one this year, but obviously it got canceled due to COVID. But I should be doing my panel next year. I'm really, really excited. Real quick, my panel was going to be Godzilla and heavy metal music. So I was going to talk about songs and artists that reference Godzilla, songs about Godzilla and stuff like that. And hopefully I'll still be able to present that panel. I'm really looking forward to it next year if I'm able to go, and if they let me do my panel.
That does sound pretty cool.
Yeah.
For example, Sepultura, Biotech is Godzilla, Rage Against the Machine, No Shelter, stuff like that. Maybe some of the obscure stuff that people don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, here you go. This is how big of a fan I am. Hold on.
Yep.
Okay, we can go because I just sent a message.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Any other questions in the chat? Let me see here. I'm just looking back here. Jay, are you going to live stream from the panel? Probably. No. It's just going to be, you got to go to G-Fest if you want to see my panel. Actually, Master Pesina, I do have a question here. I know since you're involved with Hosong Pak, he was actually one of Mark and I's favorite movies, Drunken Master with Jackie Chan, the second one.
Yeah.
So have you been have you ever met Jackie Chan or ever been involved in any of his work?
Yeah, I flew down to be in that movie. Hosong was like, hey, they need a white bad guy, a Caucasian bad guy. And so I was just like, okay. And he's like, I don't know if they heard that. Anyway, my whole thing is my text is Godzilla. So whenever somebody texts me, it's Godzilla's roar, and basically whenever somebody when the voicemail goes, it's Mothra's theme.
Nice.
So I wanted to say that. I
Nice.
want to say how big of a fan I am, but it didn't quite work out. I don't know why.
Oh wow.
But anyway, so I went down there, but we got hit by a typhoon.
Oh.
And, I was down there for like a week, and then when we were going to film, a typhoon wiped out the set. So they were like, hey, can you stay 3 weeks so we can rebuild the set, and then we're going to film after that. And I was just, at the time, I was just like, man, there's no way I could take another 3 weeks off of work and then stay another 2 weeks to film, for this movie. And I was like, sorry, I can't really do that. I just, at that time, I was just like, I kind of decided that I would just rather practice martial arts than be in movies, just because, to be in a movie, you have to do a different type of sacrificing. You got to be ready to go up and leave. And once you're on the set, you don't really practice. It's a lot of hurry up and wait. You don't get to really practice martial arts a lot. You're practicing fight scenes, but that's not really honing your martial arts skills. That's just doing your movie skills. So it's really a different approach. And at that time, I was just like, okay, there's no way I can do this, because I'll have this, but then when I go back to the States, I won't have a job.
Ah, okay.
Right.
You know, so I was just like, man, maybe this isn't the life for me. So that's one of the times that I decided, hey,
Okay.
you know, I'm just gonna focus more on my martial arts and don't really worry too much about a movie career.
And okay, I got here's another question in the chat here. And again, this is gonna be last call for everybody because you know Master Pesina, we don't want to take up too much of his time. But anyway, the open up the floor for questions. So last minute, but here we go. Scott Bannock asks, what are your thoughts on the fighting styles in the Star Wars movies?
That's a good question.
Scott, I am also a huge Star Wars fan.
Oh, there you go. There's your victory,
There you
Scott.
And that goes as far as like Godzilla. So all the Star Wars, I like.
There it is.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's
Awesome.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
So yeah. So Star Wars, I think even when they had Jar Jar Binks, I said, so what?
wow.
It's still Star Wars. You know, I still
That's a true fan right there.
I watched all the movies hundreds of times. So a lot of people are like, oh, you know, find flaws in Star Wars. I'm thinking, dude, it's Star Wars. How you can't make Star Wars into Star Trek. Star Wars is Star Wars.
Right.
You can't really, you know, I wasn't surprised. Oh, well, no crap. You know, it's all over the media. Every single little detail is on the media before the movie comes out. You can't be surprised. You know, you just got to be a fan and enjoy it. So I really love Star Wars. But the lightsaber fighting is...
I was waiting for that.
Really not very good. It is not very good. You know what I mean? They really need somebody who really does who really knows sword, not somebody who kind of knows sword or kind of thinks they. You know what I mean? I don't want to fight to insult the choreographer. He's dude does an awesome job, but the fighting in it is really bad.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, B-Nap says Master Pesina it's not a hater, it's truly refreshing. War Damn Atlanta says Master Pesina is a legend. This is amazing. So, yes, we love the compliments. This is great. Actually, I want to ask you, Master Pesina, real quick before we go. Who was the martial arts star? What got you into martial arts? Like, who was it that inspired you?
Yeah, I was going to ask you that question too.
Yeah, so when I was younger, I watched on Sunday. There was a program called Charlie Chan the Detective. It was a black and white series where this Chinese guy would solve these crimes. You know, back then it was a big crime thing. You know, they had Sherlock Holmes. I used to watch that too with Basil Rathbone. Man, I loved all the old school stuff. But during one of those episodes, I saw Charlie Chan judo throw this guy. And I was like, whoa, that's so cool. And my dad was watching. My dad was like, I could teach you that, because my dad was served in the U.S. military during the Korean conflict. So,
wow.
Yeah, so my dad is like, okay. So I threw my dad. You know, my dad went over because I'm only like 6 years old or something like that. But my dad went over, you know, and I wanted to throw him again, but I think that my dad really didn't know how to fall. You know, even though you learn military martial arts, much different than, you know, traditional martial arts.
Right.
So he didn't let me throw him again, but I kept bugging him. I want to go for lessons. So when I was after about 3 years of bugging, when I was like, I think I was 10 years old, 9 or 10 years old, he took me to martial art lessons. And two, after that, you know, it was starting to get big. Green Hornet, you know, Bruce Lee was in it. I used to love that. I used to run home from school to watch that. It was on TV. So, you know, Bruce Lee has been an inspiration for like that. And two, I will see any martial art movie.
Yeah.
You know, even Jean-Claude Van Damme. If Jean-Claude Van Damme has a new movie, I will pay to go see it. Or he has a series, I gotta support him. Yeah. You know, even though he's not a traditional martial artist, he's more of a dancer, but he still studied a little bit of martial arts, and I will still go and support him. You know, so I will go see any martial art movie at least once.
Yeah, mine's Jackie Chan. He's my childhood hero too.
Yeah,
I love Jet Li. Yeah. That's my favorite.
Yeah, Jet Li too. Actually, Jackie Chan, interesting story. One time when we were going to dinner, I saw him pull out, no lie, a roll of hundreds like this.
Wow.
And just friggin' start giving people money.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
That's amazing.
I love him.
I need medication. He'd give you 100 and slip you a couple more. He was just freaking, by the end, the whole world was gone. And he would stay out there and like talk to people and just like, he was just like such an awesome guy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, I got one last question. Have you ever sparred with anyone famous?
No, I don't think, we're Raiden.
There we go. All the time, right? Your longest sparring partner ever.
And I sparred with all those guys. I won. So
Awesome.
that's something I put down to God. So I don't suck.
There we go. Okay, so I'm tapped out of questions. So Mark, you got any questions to add before we go?
Yeah, Sifu, like off camera before we went on air, you kind of spoke to us briefly about this book that you're working on. Do you want to kind of share a little bit about that with the audience?
Yeah, it's just I am working on a book, like some of the stories, the untold stories behind Mortal Kombat between what happened, like as I mentioned, the Scorpion story, or people might not know how the friendship came around. How Sonya Liz came up with the idea of goofing around because she's like a hippie and she didn't want to kill anybody. She wanted to give them a flower, for friendship. So, and just different things of, like playing dodgeball with the richest shoe. Stories like that, or how we came up with different ideas, or what it was like to go through the, everybody thinks like, oh, it was just like do that. No, there's a whole, that if you look at the making behind MK, you look at a square, and that square took 3 days to make. At the beginning, John was like, try to kick in one place, and I couldn't look over here and come back to the exact same position, so I started building a square, for different things to keep me on track, and eventually it became organized. And everyone used that to keep track of their movement, and how the ideas, different ideas, and goofing around of how I took a mic stand and wrapped tape on it so that way each character could kick exactly in the same place.
Nice.
When they came in. So that didn't like happen just like one. That happened over like days of thinking, and like John saying, how we came up with the box really quickly. Everybody sees, we use a box. Well, John asked me to jump like 50 times. And at the end, he was like, don't jump too high because the lighting changes in the top of your head. But you have to tuck your knees. So jump really low and tuck your knees. And I'm thinking like, you want me to float? And so he started laughing, and then I looked around and I saw this box. I was like, since you're cutting me out anyway, can we get the action where I'm jumping and then cut part of that out and replace it with me on the box and cut the box out? And he's like, oh yeah, we could do that. And there was a whole thing of how, I had to explain to him, he wanted to do it with a chair. And I was like, you can't do it on a chair because you'll look like you're doing it on a chair. We need something where, when you jump, there's a certain tightness in your body, dynamic in your body. And even now when you watch movies, you can tell when they're being pulled up by the string and the guy has no experience.
Absolutely.
It kind of looks unshaky, or he looks kind of like you pull them up with the string. While if you watch like old kung fu movies, sometimes you can't tell that they get pulled up with the string because they have like a certain dynamic with their body. So I was like, we got to take that idea and transfer it into this game. So it was like stuff like that. So I want to do, those types of things about the creation of the game. And also I want to address the mysteries of kung fu, the esoterical stuff of where stuff comes from, or the secrets of stuff. A good example is when I was doing Iron Palm, practicing Iron Palm. One day I realized hitting iron, like I have a bag, 30-pound bag of iron steel pellets that I hit, and because they're iron, they have the rust come out of them. So because you're sweating and you put this liniment on, my pores are open. And so my skin is actually absorbing some of this iron filling.
Oh, wow.
And so when they say Iron Palm, it is really, and I was thinking like, dude, this cannot be good for me. Because eventually you absorb so much of this iron into your skin that your skin is iron.
Right.
So this is part of the mystery of Iron Palm, is actually not only the breathing and all that stuff, right, is if you hit iron for years, iron particles get
Literally.
absorbed into your skin. So when you hit somebody, when you're going to hit somebody, your hand is like iron because yes, it has been absorbing iron particles. So that's part of the stuff that I wanted to address, mysteries of Kung Fu, esoterical stuff. So I want to combine the mysteries of Mortal Kombat and the mysteries of traditional martial arts together.
That sounds like it's going to be an awesome book.
Yeah, we can't wait.
I definitely want to read it when it comes out. Do you have like an ETA of when that's going to be?
I'm hoping to get it out as soon as possible. So,
right.
I worked on it for a couple hours, but, writing too, for even writing or anything like that is just a different skill.
Yeah.
So I'm not a writer. So when I look at I've gained a huge new respect for writers. Man, it's flipping difficult. You know what I mean? Martial arts are difficult. Musicians difficult. Writers difficult. Car mechanics difficult. There's, computer programmers difficult. There's a lot of Kung Fu out there. There's and that's all Kung Fu, skill and time. Something that takes you a long time, to get a skill, as you guys know.
Let us know as soon as possible when that book comes out. Before we go, a few comments in the chat here. Martha St. Germain, my mother says, "Nice show, Master Daniel."
Thank you. Thank you.
So I'm glad she popped in there, despite she told me not to tell you about her not letting me play. She told me specifically not to tell you that story, but I wanted to anyway. Nico VF says, I'm a martial artist student, MK fan, and I really appreciate the peace, patience, and goodwill you transmit through your words and acts. Hugs from Chile. Master Pesina, please come back soon.
Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks.
Yes.
Well, we're all geeks. We're all family.
Yes, absolutely. Before we go, Master Pesina, can you just let everyone know where they can find you on Twitter, Facebook, and your website and all that before we go? Just promote yourself.
Yeah, on Facebook, it's Master Pesina. On Twitter, it's Master Pesina. Yep. Instagram is Master D Pesina because I couldn't remember the password. And they want you to remember the password to renew your password. So I just started a new account. So I have that at my website, which hasn't been updated, but you could always look at it. It's Master Pesina, www.masterpesina.com. My Gmail is Master Pesina. If you ever, again, times right now are kind of weird, with this, for me, I have older parents. My parents are old. I help in their health care, and I can't afford to be exposed to the virus. So I wash and I wear the mask and stuff like that. So I ask all my friends out there to also do that and take care of my parents. Because I don't want them to die. They're old and they're going to die, but I don't want to die too soon. I want to enjoy them for a little bit more. And two, we should try to take care of each other. It's not a big deal to wear a mask. It doesn't, they make me wear a car seat. We can wear a mask. Everybody is like, oh, it messes with my freedom. Not really. We're all considerate. If if I ever see somebody get jumped in the alley, I'm going to be the first one to cut in and find out what's happening. You know what I mean? I'm that type of guy to do that. So,
God bless you.
We should do that. We should do that as far as, the strong protect, whether you're physically strong or mentally strong or smarter or stuff like that. Our job as superheroes, as fans, is to do that, protect. So I think that we should, put that aside and remember, put politics aside as far as that's concerned. And we should just take care of each other. Wash your hands is good for you.
Absolutely.
Wear a mask. If you don't want to wear a mask, get a scorpion mask. Cincy T-shirts has Sub-Zero and Scorpion masks. You can go there or order. They sent me a couple. Give them a free plug. They sent me a couple, but you can. That's a cool mask to wear. Walking around like Scorpion and Sub-Zero.
I would wear that.
Yeah, that
absolutely.
does not suck. Especially like, hey, you got that mask? Yeah. I was talking to Master Pesina, who helped co-created Scorpion. And he told me to get this mask because I just happened to be talking to him. What? We're a group. We're geeks.
And real quick, do you have a merch store?
I do not.
Okay.
Yeah, I am not that organized. As you guys probably know from just shooting our emails and stuff like that, I am very unorganized. But
that's a shame because I was going to ask where I could get that statue. That is amazing.
Actually, Doc Mac had these custom made. There's limited amount custom made at Galloping Ghost, so you can reach out to Galloping Ghost and probably get
it's
one.
the Warrior Shrine.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So he did all the victory poses.
Yeah, from the Warrior Shrine. Yeah. From
yeah,
the back
and
of
the victory
Mortal
pose
Kombat
is from the I got the idea from the 1968 Olympics.
Oh wow!
Nice.
Yeah, when the athletes held their
held their fist up.
Yeah, held their fist up because my dad taught me at that age about oppression, and I thought that Shang Tsung was oppressing the people of Earthrealm. So when I made up that victory pose, that's what I thought, like fight oppression.
Man, I like it even more now.
Yeah. But stories like that, people don't know that why Scorpion and Sub-Zero hold their hands like that, because in the end, they too are fighting the oppressor Shang Tsung. Even though he hired one of them, but still, it's fighting that oppression.
That's awesome.
It's just that symbol that it's not as again, we should take care of each other.
Okay, so before we go, I just want to say thank you to Master Pesina for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here with us. Again, you're one of my childhood heroes. This was a childhood dream come true for me, so I'm glad you took the time to hang out with us. It means the world to me. So I asked you one important question: is Master Pesina, would you care to come back on Nerd Cage Live with us?
Okay, heck yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we'll figure it out
Great
time. We'd love to have you back.
Yeah,
There's a lot more stuff I want to cover with you. We've covered a lot of ground today, but there's definitely more, and I would absolutely love you to have you come back.
Yeah, maybe we can do a screening of the have it in the background, the animated Scorpion movie.
Oh, the Scorpion's Revenge.
Yeah. Have like
awesome.
Have a movie night where we're all just sitting around chatting about anything.
That'd be awesome.
That would be cool.
Jason, it's always good to hang out with you again. We hung out before, so hopefully we'll hang out more in the future. Mark.
I'll be in Chicago next year for sure. And thank you to everybody in the chat.
Good to see you.
Yeah, you look the same. As I said, you look the same. You
do not age. You do not age at all. But it's been too long since I've seen you, and this has just been, this has been fantastic. Not only to get this insight as far as like the creation of Mortal Kombat and all these facts that I don't think any of us really knew, but just on a personal level, just to see an old friend, you know what I mean? It's fantastic. So thank you for
spending some time with us. Keep smiling. Yeah, thanks. And and we'll be chatting later.
Okay, absolutely. So, and like I said, thank you to everybody that came. Everybody knew how hard we were pushing this show. So, thank you to everyone who came to support me and Master Pesina and Mark and I. We're really humble. Thank you so much. You guys made this show an absolute blast. Thank you for coming in, and thank you for taking time out of your Thursday night to ask Master Pesina questions. We had a blast. So, before we go, we please ask you to like, comment, subscribe, ring that bell, spread this shit like syphilis. So the USA, from Louisville to Chicago, from Syracuse, to all of our friends around the fans and friends around the world at Nerd Cage Live and Master Pesina's Dojo, we ask you all to enjoy life, stay safe, and good night. Fatality. Thank you again, everybody. This was a blast.
Ooh, trying to get out of the nerd cage, are ya? Well, before you go, hit that subscribe button. And if you're really intrigued, ring that bell. Thank you for dropping by. Until next time, tell everyone you know about Nerd Cage Live!